Welcome to Built for Battle, the Pokemon Spotlight series. I'm Just Weavile and today we're showcasing Venusaur, a fast and potent sun-powered sweeper that can turn the weather to its advantage and devastate teams with a mixture of stab and coverage moves. At the heart of this build is the Chlorophyll ability, which doubles Venusaur's speed under the sunny weather, letting it outspeed even threats that normally counter it. We're pairing it with a Life Orb to maximize offensive output, turning each move into a serious threat. The moveset is all about high pressure offense, Giga Drain being a reliable stab that restores HP whilst also breaking through bulky water and ground types. Sludge Bomb is a strong poison stab to threaten fairy types and also add the potential to poison. Weather Ball is a versatile coverage move that becomes a fire type powerhouse under the sunny weather. Growth doubles Venusaur's special attack and attack under the sun, letting it sweep more aggressively after a turn or two. This Venusaur runs a modest nature with max special attack and max speed, taking full advantage of Chlorophyll to outspeed the field and hit extremely hard. One build, two battles, let's showcase what Venusaur can really do. Before we dive in though, don't forget to check out the Pokemon Battle Hub Discord. It's completely free to join and packed with trainers ready to battle, share teams and exchange ideas. And if you enjoy the creative builds like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next showcase. Right then, let's get into the first battle. Okay, going into this game, I was terrified. Look at that walking wake and look at my team being a sun team. Terrifying stuff, I will say. The Ogerpon can also be quite difficult to deal with, so can Petrarun. The whole team is just scary. King Gambit, of course, got to be careful of that, where that Supreme Overlord Sucker Punch could easily stop Venusaur in its tracks. But looking at my team, I think Venusaur will do really well here if we can just weaken some Pokemon, for example, the Walking Wake or the Petrarunt. But other than that, I figured I would lead off with Volbeat and potentially Thunder Wave a Walking Wake, or a Ogerpon Walking Wake might see the Torkoal and think, hey, it's going to lead with Torkoal and lead with that. And then if we can paralyze that thing, that'd be amazing because no one expects Thunder Wave on the Volbeat. And the battle begins. Good luck, have fun to my opponent. They're going to lead off with Garg, as I led off with Firefly the Volbeat. Obviously, I was expecting a Walking Wake lead, so this isn't the greatest lead for my Volbeat to be in. So I decided to just U-turn out, get on out there against the Garg. It does a nice little bit of chip, which is always nice to see. And we're going to go into something that can easily take care of this Garg right now. So I figured Hisuian Samurott. This is a great opportunity to get spikes up if I want to. We can threaten it with a potential Aqua Cutter, or we can go for a Ceaseless Edge, get some spikes up. Expecting a switch, etc. So let's see how that goes. So I decided to go for a Ceaseless Edge. Obviously, they went for a Salt Cure the turn before, and that's going to hurt Samurai every single turn, being a water type especially. And we do get the spikes up on their side of the field, and they didn't switch out, which is interesting, and go for a Hammer Arm, which is very interesting to see on a Garg, I will say. I've not seen that before, but it definitely worked out for them, as Assault Cure is able to finish off Samurott. But at least we got one layer of spikes up, which is always well and good. So now, let's go into Venusaur. Venusaur can definitely handle the Garg, it outspeeds it, we don't need Terra, nothing like that. We can just go for Giga Drain straight away and get the KO on this Garg. Turns out my opponent maybe thought they could take the Giga Drain, but they didn't, as the Garg does go down to a Giga Drain, which is always really nice. So in comes the Scizor. Now, I was thinking in my head, I was like, I could Terrafire a Weather Ball here, and then I remembered the sun wasn't up, so I'm going to have to get out of here and go into my Torkoal. Torkoal can definitely take any hit from this thing, no matter what it does. If it Swords Dances and then knocks off, unless it's like Swords Dance, Terra Ground, Terra Blast, we should be just fine here. So Torkoal comes in, good old Shelmer over there. We get the Drought up, so now the play is all set, ready for Venusaur. They do go for an Aerial Ace, getting that Technician Flying type move off, which is pretty cool. I'm guessing they're Terra Flying if that's the case, because that's a pretty cool combination right there. I figured there's no way they stay in here. They probably definitely switch out to Walking Wake or something, so I figured I'd get my Stealth Rocks up here. They do go into the Walking Wake, and that thing can Hydro Steam for days right now. It does get hit by spikes, which is great, and it does get a Photosynthesis boost thanks to the sun, which is going to boost his special attack, making this thing even more threatening. What do I do here? What do I switch in against this thing? I have no idea, but it is what it is. We're going to have to try and work around it. I decided to go into my Noivern this time. Noivern obviously being resistant to the Hydro Steam, it should be able to take one, and then we do outspeed it because of the Photosynthesis boosts its special attack, not its speed. They did go for a Hydro Pump though. I think they got their moves mixed up there. It should be Hydro Steam on that buddy, I think. But that's absolutely fine, it happens, you know, so I'm just like, you know what, let's just go ahead and drop a Draco on this thing. They do actually whip out the Terra, which is really unfortunate. And it probably is going to be like Terra Water or something like that, I'm thinking, but they are Terra Fire, which is very interesting. So Terra Fire in the sun, which I'm assuming is to boost Flamethrower even further in the sunlight. We go for that Draco though, and unfortunately they do live on a sliver of HP. Now they go for a Dragon Pulse here, which is obviously going to KO Noivern, unfortunately. So Noivern didn't get to do diddly squat this game, other than, you know, severely weakening the Walking Wake, of course. But now this gives me a good opportunity. to go into Venusaur. And now that they've already terrored, I don't have to worry about any surprise terrors that are going to throw my Venusaur off balance. So I figured I'd go for a Giga Drain here. Giga Drain comes through. Obviously, it recovers like a 1 HP. But it's still something. It all adds up. 4 HP to be exact. And down goes the Walking Wake at least, which is absolutely fantastic. Walking Wake being out of the way against the Sun team is just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. In comes the Scizor. So Scizor is a problem normally, but this time we've got the Terrifier Weather Ball on our side. They obviously get some spikes and Stealth Rock damage. I'm going to go ahead and Terastallize straight away, go for that Weather Ball, and I'm pretty sure we're sitting pretty right now. We don't have to do much more here. Venusaur should be able to clear this, right? So we're going to go ahead and Terrifier, get that nice candles on our head. Well, not on our head, on top of the flower. I like it when they put the Terastallization hat on like a different part of the body, depending on what kind of Pokemon it is. Like, they always put it on the head, but then it's Venusaur on top of the flower, which is awesome. So, anyway, Weather Ball comes through. It's obviously that Scizor has no chance. I think that probably KOs about 15 Scizors, maybe more, in a row with one move, which is insane. And in comes the Pecharunt. So I'm sat here thinking, can Pecharunt, after Spikes and Stealth Rocks, can it take a Weather Ball in the sun from a Life Orb Venusaur? Let's find out. Now, Pecharunt is quite bulky, so we go for that Weather Ball. Obviously, it's going to be boosted by Terra, which is fantastic. And it does an absolutely whopping 100% of their remaining HP, which is fantastic. So down goes the Pecharunt, which is always great. And in comes the Ogre, the Ogre-pon over here. So this battle's a pretty good showcase of Venusaur, because not only did we get to use Giga Drain, we got to use Weather Ball with Terrifier, and we're going to go for a Sludge Bomb right now. We know they can't Terra, so we're quite happy going for a Sludge Bomb here. Cleanly taking out the Ogre-pon in one clean hit. No problems there whatsoever. But unfortunately, the harsh sunlight does fade here. So a little bit worried, because obviously King Gambit's here, and I don't want it to get a Swords Dance up. I really don't. I don't really know what I was doing here. Literally, this is the part where I was like, oh yeah, Weather Ball can't be a fire type because of the sun. So I decided to go for a Giga Drain. I figured, you know what, Venusaur, just get some damage off on the King Gambit. It's no big deal. The one thing I don't want it to do is go for a Swords Dance here and Sucker Punch us to death. So if I switched into Torkoal, for example, and they went for a Swords Dance, they'd just be able to Kato Cleave, and then they'd be able to go for a Sucker Punch and just destroy the rest of our team. So I figured, you know what, Venusaur, you're staying in. We're going for a Giga Drain here. Definitely going to take out this King Gambit somehow. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. But unfortunately, one final Kato Cleave from the King Gambit is able to take out Venusaur. So Venusaur didn't win us the game, but it certainly did most of the work. Let's be real. So I think pretty good showcase of Venusaur's power, but we still have a battle to finish. So let's go into Mimikyu. Mimikyu should definitely be able to take on this King Gambit right here. We just have to go for a Drain Punch. They can't do anything to us. And there the Drain Punch comes through. Down goes the King Gambit. And that was a nice little quick one. Gotta have a little quickie in there somewhere, right? You got a little quick battle at the beginning of the showcase, just to showcase Venusaur being an absolute badass and all that stuff. So GG. So next we're going against Rod G from the Pokemon Battle Hub Discord, of course. And they've got a really cool team. I like the Hawlucha. That's a really nice one, especially with Mega Hawlucha just being revealed. Dragonite is also a big threat. Chandelure. Never sleep on Chandelure or Crocodile. The whole team is just sleeper threats, you know? But anyway, I kind of figured let's lead off with Hisui and Samurott. We can maybe get some Ceaseless Edges off, because I was kind of predicting either a Reuniclus lead maybe, or even a Milotic. Little did I know I was making a pretty bad mistake in that regard. But with that being said, let's jump straight into the game. And the battle begins. Good luck, have fun, Rod G. They do lead off with the Crocodile, as I lead off with my Hisui and Samurott. This is a good lead and a bad lead, so obviously we've got a type advantage here, but they do get the Intimidate off, and they do outspeed us. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to flip Ton on out of here. They go for a Stealth Rocks, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should have gone for the Echo Cut here. That probably would have been the better play. Get rid of the Crocodile early on. They would have KO'd, but nearly would have done the job, as the Flip Turn does just about half, just under half of its remaining HP. So Samurott, come on back. And I figured let's go into Noivern, because Noivern not only outspeeds, we can drop a Draco on something right now and it'll hurt pretty much everything on the team, which is great. However, I did think they would probably withdraw, so I decided to go for a U-turn instead. Draco Meteor was pretty obvious. I could see the Milotic coming in, as indeed it does. The Milotic does come in. It's a very special defensive Pokemon. Can probably take a Draco Meteor pretty well. But U-turn gives us a bit of momentum here, and we can pretty much go into anything we want to take on this Milotic. And I'm thinking, you know, Venusaur's looking pretty good right now. So Aloe Vera, the Venusaur, is going to come in to take on this Milotic. I figured Giga Drain probably does 2-8 KO from here with a Life Orb. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Go for the Giga Drain. As they do in fact stay in, Giga Drain does do a 2-hit KO with the Life Orb, which is fantastic. But obviously we're probably going to get slapped in the face with an Ice Beam right now, which won't KO us unless they're like choice specs themselves. But Ice Beam comes through, that's going to do a solid 50% of our remaining HP. And I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to go for another Giga Drain. I really need to get rid of this Milotic, or at least force a switch to keep it weakened. So they withdraw the Milotic, which is absolutely fine. And they, of course, go into the one thing that can take a Giga Drain on their team. Well, not the one thing, but yeah, Dragonite comes in. So we break the multi-scale, which is really good, at least for later, provided they're not leftovers or have Roost. I don't know if a Dragonite gets Roost, but let's assume it does for the sake of this commentary. So Venusaur, you're going to have to come out because you're definitely in range for an extreme speed from this thing. So I figured let's go into Torkoal. Torkoal can obviously take any hit from this thing, and we can potentially burn it with Lava Plume as well. And if they are like a Dragonan set, we don't have to really worry because we're physically defensive and we can take any hit really. So stones do dig into Shelmer, poor little Shelmer over here. And we do get the Drought up for about 8 turns. They went for a Hurricane, so they are a special Dragonite, which is really cool to see. The Hurricane definitely got a lowered accuracy in the sun, obviously. And I figured let's go for a Stealth Rocks, because there's no way they're going to stay in if they're a special Dragonite, because even though they could go for a Draco Meteor or something, I think we're going to be alright. So they do withdraw and go into Milotic. I get a Rapid Spin off. I didn't mean to say Stealth Rocks. I go for a Rapid Spin first, of course. Get rid of the Stealth Rocks that are already on my side of the field, and I figured, you know what, we can take a Scald. We can take a Scald from this thing in the sun, so I figured I'd go for a Stealth Rock. They actually go for a Recover, which now that I look back, that's probably the pretty obvious play to do. Get your health back against the Pokemon that can't really touch you, so Stealth Rocks going up is definitely arguably one of my better plays, unintentionally, with a Torkoal. So now I'm like, what do we do against this Milotic? There's a couple of things I could do. I could go into Volbeat and Encore it into Recover, or whatever it wants to go for, or I can be ballsy. So I decided to be ballsy. I'm going to go into Hisuian Samurott. I'm actually predicting an Ice Beam here, expecting the Venusaur to come back in maybe, but as you'll see here, they actually decided to go for a Scald, which fortunately for me, despite breaking my Focus Sash, doesn't actually burn me, so I can get off a nice Ceaseless Edge right now if I really want to. And to be honest with you, I shouldn't have even done this. I should have just gone for like a Flip Turn or something, predicting the Crocodile to come in, but hey ho. They do withdraw the Milotic, obviously they don't want to get hit by a Ceaseless Edge, by a Sharpness Samurott, and they do in fact go into Sly, which is of course the Crocodile, resisting that Ceaseless Edge, whilst also getting an Intimidate off, which is going to make this Samurott not as offensively threatening to the next Pokemon that comes out. So Ceaseless Edge does a nice little chunk of damage. Unfortunately it's not 2-hit KO from where it was at, thanks to the Intimidate. But we can definitely go for an Aqua Cutter here. If they do decide to go for a Stealth Rocks, which is fine, they get the rocks back up. But now, if we get rid of these rocks again with Torkoal, at least we know the Crocodile can never set them up again. So Aqua Cutter comes through and it just demolishes the Crocodile from the remaining HP it had, which is fantastic. So down goes the Crocodile and we're looking good. In comes the Milotic. Obviously, we've got an Intimidate on us, so we're not going to be doing nearly as much damage with the Ceaseless Edge. And I don't want this thing to just like recover up and then turn out to be like a Coil set or something daft. Obviously, it's not a Coil set, it's got Scald, Ice Beam, and Recover, but you never know. So I decided a Flip Turn was the way to go. They're probably going to go for a Recover here for definite, so I figured I'd probably be pretty safe going into like Venusaur or Volbeat. So I decided to go into Volbeat, and the reason I've gone into Volbeat here is I was trying to get into a good position against this thing. I wanted it to go for a Recover. However, they do go for a Scald. The reason I wanted to go for a Recover is so that I could Encore it, but I'm still going to Encore the Scald anyway, because at least the Scald is resisted by Venusaur, so I can probably still switch it in here and go for a Giga Drain to get a lot of health done to this Milotic. They go for another Scald, and this time it does burn the Volbeat, which is really unfortunate, but it is what it is. And the Harsh Sunlight does indeed fade, so now I'm thinking, well, it's kind of a good thing. I guess, not really actually, but either way, we've got Sunny Day and a Heat Rock on this thing, so I'm not really worried about the sun disappearing, so decided to go for my Sunny Day here. They are Encored into Scald, of course. The Sunlight's going to turn harsh. They go for a Scald. It's going to do a bit of damage to the Volbeat, nothing too drastic. And now I'm like, let's go for a U-turn. Do a bit of chip, nothing too drastic. They're locked into Scald. In the sun especially, I should be able to switch my Venusaur here and take negative damage. Pretty much, which would be really nice. But we go into Aloe Vera now. We do get hit by the Stealth Rocks, of course. And I'm pretty confident we can take a Scald. They go for that Scald. And does a bit more than I hoped it would. Thanks to a critical hit, but also a burn. So we got a crit burn on the Venusaur. So it's looking pretty dire right now for Venusaur. And you might be thinking, how does it come back from this? Well, it kind of does. So their Encore ends, which means they can change up moves. However, they kindly let me take out their Milotic with my Venusaur in the sun, so I get a little bit of health back. And that means, despite the fact we have a Life Orb and a Burn, we've got a couple more hits in us, which is absolutely amazing. So, let's see how this plays out. In comes the Chandelure. So Chandelure is a bit of a tricky one for me. I don't really want to deal with it with Venusaur, but we can bring Venusaur in a little bit later. With the amount of health it has left, it can definitely live a Stealth Rocks and then get another attack off on something. So you haven't seen the last of the big frog yet. So we're going to bring Volbeat in here just to let it go down to whatever we want to go into. Stone's going to dig into it. I figured, you know what, if it's a trick variant or something, I want to see what it's locked into because they're normally choiced. They actually have Trailblaze, which is a really interesting choice for a Chandelure. I actually really like it. I respect it, you know? It's like Choice Scarf, but without being locked into a move. So I figured, all right, now's the time to go into Hisuian Samurott. We can go for a Ceaseless Edge, get another layer of spikes up if we want to, etc. So Ceaseless Edge is going to come through for us right now, which is great. However, this is where my opponent whips out the old Terastallization. And of course, what does every Chandelure Terastallize into? A Grass type, naturally. So Grass type Chandelure is here, and I'm wondering in my head, I'm like, does it have Trailblaze as its only Grass move, or does it also have Energy Ball? Probably has Energy Ball. We go for that Ceaseless Edge, it's a clean 2-hit KO, which is awesome, but we do get the spikes up as well, which is awesome. However, they go for a Trailblaze here, and that's going to give them a nice speed boost. So Trailblaze comes through, does a little bit of damage, nothing too drastic. It is a Chandelure after all, it does not have the best attack in the world. I figured, you know what, let's just try and go for a Ceaseless Edge again. I don't have Sucker Punch, so they may as well. They do reveal they have Energy Ball, which is, of course, going to be able to KO my Samurott from here, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Down it goes. It got some spikes up. It did its job. It's pretty good for that. And now is the time to bring Venusaur back in to show its resilience. It takes those Stealth Rocks like an absolute champ, leaving it with 4 HP. We can now go for a Sludge Bomb and quickly, despite its Trailblaze, demolish the Chandelure's life in one final breath for the Venusaur. So Chandelure, it does break its Terastallization, it does go down, which is fantastic. Venusaur, on the other hand, that Life Orb, it's that Life Orb, or even if we didn't have a Life Orb, the burn. Down goes Venusaur. Venusaur could have done some great stuff this game, but unfortunately, it's not going to be able to. So we're going to go into Noivern now. They bring in Reuniclus, which is fine by me, as I bring in Boombox. And I'm thinking, you know what? Noivern, it is your time to shine. We're going to take some Stealth Rock Chip. We're going to go for a nice and powerful, because look at the team. They've got Holucha, they've got Reuniclus, and, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. So I'm going to Terra Normal Boom Burst real quick. So there we go. I'm finally using my Terastallization on this team, in this battle anyway. And it's going to be Terra Normal on the Noivern, which is great for us. Because not only do we outspeed the Reuniclus, we outspeed the Holucha, etc. And I'm pretty confident we can take a Psychic from here. So Noivern's going to come through with a Boom Burst. I knew it wouldn't KO, but I didn't expect it to be this close. Like, look at that damage on a Reuniclus. That's insane, but they do have the Thunder Wave. So if I could have lived a Psychic there, then yeah, we'd have been good with Noivern. But unfortunately, the Paralysis, although we still outspeed the Reuniclus, we've got no chance of ever outspeeding that Holucha, unfortunately. So that leftovers ain't going to help the Reuniclus, unfortunately, for them, as we are able to go for a Boom Burst this next turn. And there we go. We didn't get fully parried as well, which is always nice. Boom Burst comes through. Down goes the Reuniclus, which is fantastic. So with that green blob out of the way, my opponent decides to go into the Holucha. And I'm like, okay, what kind of sets this Holucha? It's not a seed set because they don't have terrain on the team. So what could it be? And then the thought popped into my head and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let Noivern go down here just in case they Swords Dance. You know, just in case they Swords Dance here, predicting a switch. Because that's always a possibility, you know? And naturally, they decide to go for a Sky Attack. And I was like, is that Power Herb Sky Attack? Of course it is. So Power Herb Sky Attack is going to come through now, but will it connect? That's the real question. Of course it does. And down goes Boombox. Seems a bit overkill for what really needs to be done, because it didn't really need to activate their Unburden to win the game. They outsped my entire team anyway, and they could have gone for anything there, really close combat or something. But anyway, I still have a Mimikyu with a Disguise, and they've already Terra'd. And their last remaining Pokemons is this thing and a Dragonite, both of which Mimikyu outspeeds and can KO with Play Rough. So let's go for the Play Rough real quick. They go for an Acrobatics to break our Disguise, which is fine. I love Mimikyu. It's so cute. Look at that little head bobble. He's just like, burp. He's just done. Absolutely done. Play Rough comes through, though. That is a KO'd Holucha right there. So down goes Holucha. Maybe if you were Mega Evolved, you'd be able to win the fight, but unfortunately not in this instance. in comes the Dragonite, as you would expect. It's the last remaining Pokemon. Stealth Rocks are going to dig in, which basically seals the deal and means that this play rough that's going to come through now is definitely KOing that Dragonite, as it does, and that is going to be the game. So GG, that was a pretty fun one, Rod. I did enjoy that. So yeah, thanks very much for watching today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and with that being said, I'll see you all tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after.